Hello and welcome to another episode of Game Hammer Extras, where we're looking at the complete PlayStation 2 collection here. We're up to all the titles that begin with J, so let's get straight into it. The PlayStation 2 library is immense, and in many ways it's one of those consoles that has something, literally something for everyone. We've been going through the entire set that I own. It's not 100% complete, it's just 85% complete, so there will be some missing, but I think it's a good representation of what this console has to offer. Jackass the game is a weird party game that's basically a collection of mini-games that you'll either enjoy or quickly find tedious. It features voices and motion capture from the majority of the original cast, which is nice, but that's about all I can say about it that's good because it's really not the kind of game that I enjoy. Jacked is basically Road Rash, but more so. Instead of like Road Rash, where it's a race where you can occasionally smack the crap out of your opponents, on this one you can actually hijack their bikes and drive the bikes as well. So it's not that bad, but it's also not intensely polished. Originally it was a budget title from Japan, which explains a lot about the lack of polish, but it was released only in Europe outside of Japan. America didn't get a copy. Another title that wasn't released in the US was Jackie Chan Adventures. This is a standard 3D action-adventure game, and it's like playing several episodes of the show back to back. It even has iToy interactions according to the box, but I don't remember seeing any of them when I played the game, so it can't be all that intense. The graphics have a weird cel-shaded look, which I'm not 100% a fan of, I have to admit, but the gameplay is decent enough. Jade Cocoon 2, well, okay, this one's an RPG and it's a sequel to a PlayStation 1 game, and that's pretty much all I can remember about it. I have played a bit of it and it didn't stick with me, so I'll have to go back and try it again, but it really is all I can remember. Apparently it's not that long, and the combat seemed interesting enough when I tried it, but I really need to go back and play a bit more of it and see how it goes. This next one, though, I have definitely played. Judge Dredd, Dredd vs. Death, is a game that I originally played as a demo on PC, and it was alright, but it wasn't that great. I wasn't overly impressed. I bought the Xbox version, though, when that was released, and I loved it. I played the entire way through. It's a fun game, and it even lets you swap out its soundtrack with your own. So I played a lot of the 4-player multiplayer with the soundtrack of Iron Maiden in the background, which was nice. This is a first-person shooter where you're only allowed to shoot the criminals. It's actually quite an interesting mechanic in that way. But it's set in Mega City 1, where pretty much everyone's done something. So things can get a bit hectic and a bit weird pretty quick. You can also arrest pretty much everyone, and you'll be given a reason for doing it. The one that I always remember is arresting someone for false imprisonment because they had a fish without a license. So that was weird. Also, you'll be marked down if you don't arrest certain people, because you've got to play this with the mindset of you being Judge Dredd. So you have to realise who is breaking the law and when, even when they're not part of the main storyline. There's one bit where there's a robot that says you can't come in without an appointment. That's resisting an officer. So you have to arrest the robot because he's stopping you from doing your job. And if you don't, then you don't get 100%. It's that kind of game. It was actually quite fun when I played it. So the game is pretty cool, but gameplay can get a little bit clunky at times. It's not the best shooter ever, but it's a lot of fun, and then if you go in expecting it not to be perfect, you're going to have a good time. Speaking of perfection, though, Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. This is a wonderful 3D action platformer, and I really enjoyed playing it when I last tried it. And I didn't finish it, I'll freely admit. There were a lot of other things going on at the time, so I should go back to it, but I really enjoyed what I saw. It's one of those famous mascot platformers, but it's from the era when mascot platformers are just starting to fall out of fashion, but it's still there enough that it really did find an audience, and it's definitely worth having a go at. So I think you can expect a full Game Hammer review on this one at some point. Jak 2 Renegade, on the other hand, I want to say it's not quite more of the same. It's more like boiling the original down to its core concepts and then enhancing some rather than others. So the combat's more at the forefront this time, and although this is still a decent amount of 3D puzzle platforming, it's really more of an action game than a puzzle platformer this time, which is nice if you're into that sort of thing. Jak 3, on the other hand, follows straight on from Jak 2, emphasising the driving as well as the combat. It's not bad, and if you're still into the series after the first couple of entries, you're going to enjoy it, but I wouldn't recommend starting here because there's a lot of backstory and it's not quite going to give you the feel of what Jak and Daxter is compared to the originals. Jak X, the fourth game, is just a combat racing game. There's no two ways about it. They've really boiled it down to certain core things that they think are what people want. And it's basically the car action sequences from Jak 3, but turned into an entire game. It's alright, but if you enjoyed the action platforming stuff, like I said before, you're going to find that you miss out a lot this time, because this series really did take a weird handbrake turn into a different genre. Weirdly enough, though, it's not the last one. There's a fifth Jak and Daxter game, and I only found this out recently. So, Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier. This is the fifth installment, which I hadn't heard of back in the day, and I'm not surprised. Naughty Dog's not even working on this anymore, it's a different company. So it's the fifth installment where the original developers aren't here anymore. And weirdly, it's back to formula. It's actually damn good. I really enjoyed this one. Very surprised. I have to admit that I thought it was going to be a little off, but it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of cutscenes. It does drag the story along in cutscenes more than in the actual gameplay, but it's still great fun, and if you get a chance to play it, definitely take that chance. James Pond, Codename Robocard, is a game that I'm shocked to see is on the PlayStation 2. I really am. I didn't expect to find something like this on PS2, but here we are, and it's just another demonstration that the PS2 really does have something for everyone. If you played the original game back in the 16-bit era, you'll be pleased to see that all 50 levels from the Mega Drive version have ported over perfectly fine. And in addition to that, there are 50 more levels. This is an enhanced version of Codename Robocard, which is very cool. The original plotline of dealing with Penguin Biscuits isn't here, because that sponsorship's gone. So if you really needed your corporate sponsorships, then you'll have to go for the Mega Drive version. Instead, it's about a mad scientist or something. It doesn't really matter. It's still the same game. So once you've managed to get over the motion sickness, that the fact that the camera is fixed on the main character and you have to walk across several uneven floors, which means that the camera bobs up and down like you would not believe, then you'll find that this is a good game with good controls and excellent music. It's a lot of fun. But you have to get over that motion sickness. I actually did a Game Hammer review on this one a few years ago, along with every other port of this game. So it was a big episode, and if you're into James Pond, I think you'll like it. Now, Jaws Unleashed. What you need to know about this one, it's released by Majesco. And that's a warning. If you know this particular era, the 6th generation, where Majesco released games, they were usually unfinished. They were struggling for cash and needed to get stuff out before it was fully polished. So know that going in. This is an unpolished game, and some would say it was actually unfinished. And as a result, it's not that good, I'm sorry to say. You play as the shark, and you need to eat a lot, otherwise your health goes down far too quickly. It's hard to enjoy this one, I'm sorry to say. Jeremy McGrath's Supercross World is a bike racing game from the point in time where the PlayStation seemed to be getting an awful lot of bike racing games. It was also a competitor at that point for Worst Game of the Year for One magazine, and I don't agree with that, because there are bad games. This is a bad one, but it's not the worst. And if you think Worst Game of that Year means it's a competitor for Worst Game on the system, then no, because Little Britain is still to come. It's not that great, let's put it that way. Jet Ion GP, on the other hand, is actually pretty good. It's not the action space combat game that I was sadly expecting when I picked it up. It's actually a Wipeout or F-Zero type of game. So yeah, I was looking forward to some wonderful 3D space combat, but instead I got 25 futuristic racing tracks, and yeah, it's not bad. If you like Wipeout or F-Zero, you'll enjoy this. And I do, so I did. Jetix Buzzle is the winner of the award for absolutely worst title in this video. Not only does it sound stupid, what the hell is a puzzle? That's just, you're just rhyming stupid phrases. What's going on? And it doesn't even explain what the game's about. You know what the game's about? You're building towers. If you crossed Tetris with the old Amstrad CPC game Catastrophes, where you're building a hotel, then you would have what this game is about. You're trying to build a tower before your play area is flooded. Pretty good game. Atrocious title. What were they thinking? Meanwhile, Jet Ski Riders is a racing game where you race jet skis. As Ron Seal would say, it does what it says on the tin. It's pretty fast-paced, and you're absolutely not going to get the hang of it right away. I guarantee that. Because there's very realistic water physics in it. It's actually really good. It's an interesting way of doing things, and I enjoyed it. The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, Attack of the Twonkies, is a strong contender for worst title in this video, but it just missed out because it's not Puzzle Buzzle. It's certainly the longest name in the video, but it's not the worst. Based on an episode of the show with the same name, it's a 3D action-adventure game, and it's actually not bad. It's a low-difficulty, kid-oriented game, but it's not bad. Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, on the other hand, is not the same game. It's another game, based on the Jimmy Neutron franchise, but instead of this time being an episode, this one's based on the film. It's still a 3D action platformer, and if you enjoyed the previous game, you'll probably like this one as well. Not a long game, quite simple. It's only 5 zones. It's aimed at kids, but if you're looking for something for the kids, you'll enjoy it. And if you're looking for something very simple, just to play while you listen to a podcast or something, yeah, you'll probably enjoy it too. Johnny Mosley Mad Tricks is a game that wants to be Tony Hawk Pro Skater, but it's not. Not by a long shot. It puts far too much emphasis on skiing and racing than it does on doing insane stunts and being fun. If you're looking for a good skiing game, it still won't really hit for you, so you're better off served with SSX. Juiced is an infamous game. It's a sexist car racing game from the early 2000s lads' night out era of brash obnoxiousness. I didn't want to like this one, I have to admit, because oh my goodness, remember that advert, the notorious advert where men used a controller from the game to strip a woman down of all her clothes? Why? Why did they do that? The game actually races quite well. The racing is decent. The car modding is decent. So why not show in the advert the racing instead of all this obnoxious striptease? I don't get it. The game could have stood on its own. It's not the best racing game ever, but it could have stood on its own. In fact, it was good enough to get a sequel, which is Juiced 2 Hot Import Nights, the inevitable sequel after Juiced sold very well, because of course it did. Like in the previous game, it's not bad. There's a fair bit of emphasis on modern cars, so if you're not into car modding, you probably won't like it that much, but the racing's decent, so yeah, give it a try if you're into it. Jumanji is another one of those weird games that you're probably amazed actually exists on the PS2. I certainly know I am. You'll also be amazed that it's not Jumanji at all. It's Mario Party. It's a really bad Mario Party, in fact. There are only 12 mini-games, they're not very good, they repeat a lot, and it's boring. This one's the one to avoid. If you've ever seen the film Jumper and thought, hey, that was pretty good, it's an interesting idea about a guy who can teleport himself anywhere, along with anything he's holding on to, so he can basically teleport into a bank, grab loads of cash, and then teleport back home. That's an interesting idea. Jumper Griffin's story, on the other hand, is a film tie-in based on the adventures of one of the anti-heroes who only exists in the film to do some exposition and then disappear. Well, actually no, he doesn't just disappear, he also does a couple of chase sequences, which are actually pretty good, but he's really there just to give the main character a bit of backstory. So naturally, for a game about a guy who can teleport wherever he wants, this is a linear action platform brawler. Yeah. You know, the standard thing, run in, fight some guys, run off, run in, fight some guys, run off, and all of that. How did they turn something that could have been interesting boring? I just don't get it. Junior Board Games is a collection of board games. Amazing, isn't it? My goodness. They're aimed at kids, and while they're decently put together, you won't find anything all that mind-blowing, and certainly nothing to write home about. The games include Battleships, Ludo, which I still say is only one step above 52-card pickup in terms of being worth playing, and of course the inevitable Snakes and Ladders. Like I said, there's nothing mind-blowing, but it's well put together, you can have a bit of fun. Junior Sports Basketball is a very basic basketball game. It's no NBA Jam, it's not even any of the EA Sports NBA series, but it works and you can probably have some fun with a few friends around if you give it a shot. But personally, I'd stick with the EA Sports ones or NBA Jam. Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, my goodness, this is good. It's what Theme Park would have been if someone had injected it with 100% proof hardcore. It's brilliant. I cannot recommend it enough. It's really good. If you're into business management simulators, Jurassic Park, or just building a theme park with dinosaurs, you definitely want to play this game. Then we have Just Cause, which is Just Cause. Do I need to say anything else? Probably. Okay, here you go. It's a 3D third-person shooter with a driving game and a few more things that it's cribbed from Grand Theft Auto 3. But it's even more insane. I absolutely adore this one. It's brilliant. Seriously, get it and play it. It's really well worth it. Expect a full playthrough on a Game Hammer Live at some point because it's just that much wacky fun. And now we come to the final game. This is Justice League Heroes. And it really does pain me to finish on this one. I'd rather have finished on Just Cause, but unfortunately we're doing these in alphabetical order. This is a basic 3D brawler. And it's in the style of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, but while I found those a little bit boring and repetitive and just far too repetitive, although other people adore them, I would say Justice League Heroes has managed to make it even more boring somehow. I don't know why. There's just something that doesn't click for me on this one. Give it a try if you've played the Marvel games and you want a bit more in that style. Otherwise, give it a miss. And there you go. Quite a mixed bag, I think you'll agree. There's some great titles in there and also some surprising things that probably shouldn't have made it onto the PS2 in the first place. Also, interesting to see some European exclusives. You don't see an awful lot of those. It's usually US or Japan that get the exclusives, but here in Europe we got, well, one or two. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and if you have, remember to click that like button. Share this with your friends so they'll know some good games when they see them, and do subscribe for future videos because there will be more in the future. But until next time, I've been Zoe Kirk Robinson. You've been watching Game Hammer Extra, and I'll see you next time. If you like the show, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really does help create future videos. That's patreon.com/Zoe Kirk Robinson. And I've got an extra special thanks going out to Chief89, Sam Yates, Retro Mickey 82, Mo Henry, and George Botterini. Thank you so much, guys.